All right, so slope y-intercept form. So what we're talking about now is still straight lines. So we're still doing something that has a straight line like that. And just so you remember, that's something called linear. If we have a straight line, we're calling it a linear relationship. Linear relationships all follow the general formula: y is equal to mx plus b. And y is normal, like y normally is, x is like x normally is, m, like we were using before in that slope formula, m stands for slope. So the number that is in front of that x is your slope. This number is your y-intercept. So I'm just going to write that up here. So slope y-intercept. So I actually wrote this on my blog. I'll show you. This might not have made sense to you until now, but say I've got this written here: y is equal to mx plus b. And I've written here the slope, so m I've got kind of going up and down the line there. B is the y-intercept. X is like x normally is, and y is like y normally is. So that's kind of why I have that written on my blog there. Yeah, so the first one here says each expression represents a relation. Without graphing, place letters A through H in the appropriate row below, so whether it's linear or non-linear. Non-linear, an example of that would just be something like, I don't know, like that. Just not straight line. Could be anything. It could be something like that. Whatever. So the way we're going to know this is pretty much as long as it's in that general form, y is equal to mx plus b, like this one. If you graphed that, that would look like this picture here. I graphed that 6x plus 1. Straight line, right? Y is equal to x squared. That is not in this formula, right? This formula, y is equal to mx plus b, it says nothing about squared. This formula, this y is equal to x squared, we'll learn about this in later classes, but that actually looks like this. It's a parabola. Same with this. This doesn't work. X to the 4 would also look like a parabola like we have up here, so that's also not linear. This one, you might say, well, there's all this like negative 1 over 4 stuff, so how do I know if that is? This is just a slope, right? This is m. So this is in that same form. It doesn't matter if this number out, or this number out front is a fraction. It can be a fraction. That is going to be a linear linear graph. And one thing else that you can tell just from looking at this, you can see this is negative 1 over 4. We were talking about slopes, right? I know right off the bat that this thing is going to go down something like this, because I know it's going to be a negative slope. A negative 1 over 4 is the slope, and it's going down to the right. So I know that. I also know that it's going to cross the y-axis at negative 8. So that's kind of later to come, though, but just something else to kind of keep an eye on. This one, not in this form quite yet, but you really quite easily can put it into that form. We can rewrite this as y is equal to negative x plus 1. Same thing, right? And now m in this case is just negative, and this could just be negative 1, right? And y-intercept of plus 1. What am I doing? This one, that doesn't look very. Y is equal to mxb. This one might be a little confusing. Y is equal to 4x. Well, that's the same thing as y is equal to 4x plus 0. So this is still in the same form, just plus 0. This one, though, 4 to the power of x. This is getting like into our strange graphs. That's going to be one that kind of looks more like this. So can't be that one. So I kind of explained them already in the one above. So it's to state the slope and y-intercept of the graph of each linear relation. You don't need to graph this. You can just pick it right from the equation. So remember, m is my slope. That's my y-intercept. That's it. You literally just have to say 7 is my slope, negative 2 is my y-intercept. Done. So go ahead and do that for the rest of these, except this one's a little bit tricksy because there's a 4 in front of it. What we got to do here is we got to divide each side, everything by 4. So what we do is go divide this by 4 to cancel those. Divide this by 4. And then really though what you're going to want to do is if dividing that by 4, that's the same thing as saying, you know, that divided by 4 and that divided by 4. Right? Hopefully you're following me. So we'd say our slope here, so we'd say y is equal to 6 over 4. That's 3 over 2x plus 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now we can kind of see our m and our y-intercept. So knowing what I've shown you guys, I'm going to let you guys go ahead and see if you can write these equations with a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of -9 and the rest of these things. And maybe I'll do this one here for you. So maybe the first one. Y is equal to 1/4 x plus 2. So I know that the slope of this thing is 1 over 4. I know that the y-intercept is 2. So the way I go by doing this first formula here is, well, I know a point on this line, so I'm going to put that right away. So plus 2, I'm going to plot that. Positive 2. I know the line travels through there, so that's going to help me. All I need is one more point, and I'm going to be able to draw a straight line through this and plot this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I also know that the slope of this thing is 1 over 4. So that really means a rise of 1 and a run of 4. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go, well, a rise of 1, so I'll go up 1. I'll go from that point I had, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's another point I know is on my line now, because it has to be, because the slope is 1 over 4. So now, if I do that with a straight edge, you guys should have a straight edge. I know my line must be something like that, but better. Okay, so that's this first line here. It has to be something like that without graphing. I knew that. So go ahead and do these ones. I'll give you a hint in this first one though. There's nothing behind the x, so this must be plus 0. You could write it the same way. So what's my y-intercept? So go ahead and do that, and then go ahead and try the rest of them there. All right, so for 5 here, it's a little bit of using your calculator, getting used to how your calculator works. It says use a graphing calculator to sketch the graph of each of the following linear equations. Complete the table giving the x-intercept to the nearest hundredth. So what we want to do is put this into our calculator. So what we're going to want to do, grab your calculator, put this over here, and open up a, oh, can't find my pen. So if you're at this point, you can go to graph, and it opens up here. You can go tab to open up a new equation to put in, and then we're going to go 7x minus 8. So 7x minus 8. Enter. And you can see we got a line like this. The first thing I'm going to do though is, this isn't very helpful to see the y-intercept of this thing. I want to see everything. So to get a better look at this thing, what I'm going to do is go Menu, Windows Zoom, Windows Settings, and then I had to go down, right? I wanted to go down to see more. So that's going to be my y. That's going to be my y minimum. It's going to be my y on the bottom end. So instead of -7 point yada yada yada, let's go negative 20. And then push OK. And that's getting a little bit better to look at, right? So that's all we're going to do there. And then the next part says, what's the slope of this? Well, right off the bat, I know what the slope of this thing is. The slope of this thing is 7. I don't need to look very hard, so you can just write 7 in there. So, oh, actually, graph this thing first. That's what we're going to do. We're going to sketch it. Uh-oh, I froze. All right, I'm back. I unfroze. All right, so we're going to sketch this graph. And it looks something like that, right, on our grid. We want to figure out what the x and the y-intercept are, but off the bat I know what the slope is. It's 7, because that's what that is, right? The y-intercept too, I don't even need to look this one up. The y-intercept is going to be -8. I'll show you how to find it on your calculator too if you forget though. -8, right? Because this is the y-intercept on my equations. The x-intercept though I don't know quite as easy, so I'm gonna show you how to find that on your calculator. Alright, so in order to find my x-intercept, remember my x-intercept is going to be the one on the x-axis right there. What you're going to do is go to Menu, and then there's a couple of things you can do. I'll show you both. So if you go to that and then go Trace and Trace Graph, you get that little spider that's on there, little guy right there. It's going to stop at interesting points, and it already stopped at 0, -8, so that's my y-intercept. But if I keep going this way, it's also going to stop at what's called a 0. Right there, so it's going to be at 1.14, and I don't know why it does this, because that should be 0, but it just made like a really tiny number. This says -1 times 10 to the -12, so that like very small, times 10 to the -12. That's like that's 0.0 with like 12 zeros before a 1, so very, very small. It really means 0. I don't know why it defaults to that little tiny number. So 1.14 would be the x-intercept there. But another way of finding it is going Menu and then Analyze Graph. And then it's what's called a 0. We call the x-intercepts zeros. So if I do that, you're going to go to the left of the place that you're interested in. So that's the left of there. And then to the right. And again, it's saying, oh, you want the 0. And I push yes, and it's 1.14 when y is equal to 0. And yeah. The other thing, no, I won't say anymore. Yeah, so that's it. So I'll write in here 1.14. And then the other thing I'd like you to do is write down your window settings. And what that is, there you go. Just go back to Windows Zoom, Windows Settings, and then get to this screen. This is the same. This is what I'm saying. So you've got the window with those settings here. The one on here is kind of like the old school, like TI-84. This is like the newer kind of way of drawing it. So just you'd write down for X min -10, X max 10. The scale I've got set to auto, but the scale would really be 1. It's set to 1 right now. It means every one of the ticks that I have here is worth 1. Yeah. So go through and then just write that, and then yeah, that's it for those. So go ahead and do B though. And that's all I'm going to say for this video, so I'll see you guys in the next one.